This is going to be a short video because this headset's not great. Because I had this one upstairs when I was living upstairs a couple of years ago, and the rooms up there have higher levels of mold. But usually when I wear this, it doesn't bother me. But I think I've become more sensitive to mold again in the past month or so. I've not been feeling as healthy. I think it's because I blame the EMF, to be honest, because haven't had the windows open as much, and I have to sit further away from the windows than normal. And I hadn't changed my air purifier filters since I got them, so I had them for about. Well, I got one of them was like early last year, but I only used it like on and off. Um, yeah, it must be about 12 months using it. So they say they can last about 12 months. It really depends on how much dust and stuff's in the room. But it was getting to about that time where I needed to change them. I was just trying to kind of make them last as long as possible to get better value. I just want to show you my characters. I just want to show my characters in this game. So we got Battle Mage, Warrior, Guardian. That's an Engineer. Ranger, and this one is a Sage. I'm gonna play on the Sage. So Halloween time, they say the veil between the material world and the spirit world is thinnest at Halloween time. That's why we have Halloween time, right? I'm gonna make this character quieter. I'll just mute the mute the game. So so yeah, I was this remote viewing, particularly, but also learning the tarot. It made me curious what other things are possible to do, not just for other people, but for me personally. What things can I do? And yeah, the thing with other people is everyone's different. People might have their own innate abilities that, because we have different astrological signs, which gives people different personality traits and things that they're good at. So I do think it's the same with these abilities. Like some people seem to have things going on like at an early age, whereas other people don't. Like I've always been kind of quite grounded in the material world, kind of more of a like logical, practical person. Um, and I also think I'm probably quite. I think fire is the dominant element in my chart. Um, Assuming I've got my rising sign correct, because I found out like yesterday or something that the rising signs change about every hour or two, so you have to get the exact birth time correct. Um, but yeah, people say, "Oh, birthday doesn't really mean anything," but it's actually very important. It's very important to correctly record your day of birth and the time of birth and the place of birth. It's actually quite important. Um, but yeah, I think I'm a Sagittarius rising. Um, if my mum told me the birth time correctly, I can't remember what it was exactly, but she told me what time it was. I think it was like six. It was either like 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. And then my brother was like a few hours difference, but we were like both in the morning. My brother is a Virgo, with an Aquarius moon, but I can't remember what his rising sign is. I think he might be a Leo rising. I'm not sure. He seems a bit like that. You can tell by you can tell by people's appearance and how they are. Like my cousin is Capricorn rising, I think. Although I probably didn't know his exact birth time, but I think he's a Capricorn rising because he's very like serious. Um, and so is Uchiha Sasuke. He is he is a Leo sun with a Scorpio moon and a Capricorn rising sign. So I hear people talking about various things um, on the internet. You know, channels I watching. There's this guy that I watch, and he's like from Arizona or something. He looks a bit like a cowboy, and he's like a natural psychic, like Mother Shipton was. And yeah, he predicted like all of the Trump uh, events recently, where they tried to delete Trump. You know, he predicted at least the first two. I think he said there was going to be like more than two. Can't remember. Um, he also predicted there would be an attack against a UK politician, and there was this guy in the news recently. It was this MP who was like punched someone or something. It's been in the news recently, so that must have been what that was. But it was actually like months ago when he said that. So I thought it was going to be something more to do with the riots that happened, and you know all the controversy with this Kia Starmer. But yeah, from people like that, I hear a lot of stuff, and I wonder what they say. Is it real for everyone, or is it just real for them? You know, the problem is other people could be illusions. Other people might not be the same thing as you. They might be like a lot of people could just be NPCs. So they're not actually like real people. So the rules that apply to you might not apply to them. And also, like I said, there's like individual differences. There might even be like things such as like a soul contract where you're supposed to kind of like do certain things in your lifetime and not do other things. So I don't know about that. From what I can see, like the archaics theory doesn't really factor that into it. He says you can pretty much become whatever you want. Like you can change the direction of your life to be however you want it. There's no kind of limitations in that sense. Um, I'm really not sure, but I do hear a lot of I hear a lot of different things. Um, and like I said, with the remote viewing, makes me wonder because I had no idea I could do that. Um, although I did know that I had precognition occasionally, I did have some precognitive experiences, like playing video games and stuff. Um, there was one. My memory's not very good, otherwise I could remember better, but there was definitely one that really stood out about 2 years ago. So I was playing a game called Trails in the Sky Second Chapter, and there's an optional fishing minigame, and I was trying to get like the hardest item in the game to get. It's like the hardest item to fish out, and it's like the most powerful one. I think it's called like Tiger Heart or something. And I tried for like half an hour to get it right. Um, and it's kind of hard. Like you've got to click at exactly the right time to catch the fish and stuff. You got to be really like quick reflexes. Um, but and obviously like you got different types of fish biting. So each fish like they bite in a different way. Like the pattern is different. But the one that dropped this item was you had to have a very quick reflex, and it was a very kind of a very rare chance that you'd um, uh, get the fish to bite, and also the fish had to be above a certain weight or something to drop it. So it was like it's something that took a long time to do, right? But basically, like 2 seconds before it happened, and I got the item I wanted, I basically like knew that it was gonna happen like in a moment's time. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I hear things. I've been thinking about people say there's a chakra system. There's like all these chakras, which I'm already familiar with the concept. Um, they talk about it in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Actually, I think there are people that enjoy that scene in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've heard people talking about it. People that don't really like. Imagine if you're like a teenager and you like don't really never heard of that sort of thing before. Must be very interesting. It's a shame I didn't watch that cartoon when I was younger. It's very good. Um, but anyway, um, talks about the chakra system. So there's something called like third eye chakra. Um, and I hear things about it, and people talk about like I saw people talking about like activating the third eye chakra or something, because like normally it's dormant or something, and that could explain why some people can do like astral projection and weird stuff that I can't do. Um, I knew this Irish girl on YouTube. Um, about 5 years ago, I found her originally. I found her back when the YouTube algorithm was how it used to be, which allowed you to find small channels that were creating interesting videos. Not long after that, they basically changed it so you could only find like trending or mainstream kind of approved videos. It became much harder to find like small channels that were like putting out good information. It was like heavily weighted towards kind of corporate or like mainstream stuff, or just kind of stuff that fits like a certain pattern or like a trending algorithm kind of thing. Um, this is obviously done on purpose. Um, the rumor I've heard is that eventually they're gonna swap it so there's no such thing as a Google search anymore. It'll all be like an AI search. So it'll basically be like talking to Chat GPT and asking it a question. There won't be like internet search as we know it anymore, which it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I found this girl through the Mandela Effect community, and she was doing like a podcast with this other guy at the time, which was like a really good podcast, and she knew like more about it than anyone else. These two people were they knew way more about it than anyone else seemed to at the time. Um, she doesn't really make any YouTube videos anymore. Like she hasn't made one for about 11 months, which is a shame. Um, I think she might have got married or got pregnant. I tried to find out from tarot and stuff. Um, but she's like an Irish person that moved to America, and she has all those kind of like strange abilities. Like she said, she's met like the Grim Reaper, or she saw something when she was in hospital. She saw something that was basically like the Grim Reaper. Um, Things like this. Um, she's very odd. She's kind of like highly intelligent, even though she's female. She's kind of you can talk to her more like a man, right? She's kind of like intelligent like that, kind of like Makise Kurisi. Um, but that's kind of like early on how I learned a lot of stuff is basically from her. I learned a lot of concepts that I didn't really understand, but I'd never really heard of before. Um, but yeah. So one of the things I've been hearing about recently from the psychics on YouTube is this thing called spirit guides. Like I said, I watched some videos about this third eye chakra, and there's this woman called the Alchemist, and she's kind of like verified, and she's got like hundreds of thousands of views. So I don't know if like initially I felt like should I trust this person, but the information in the videos seems to be good, and I don't really get a bad vibe from this person. Um, and she was talking about how to activate the third eye chakra, but she was basically saying like if it's blocked, then some people can have powers, but when they use it, there's always like a sacrifice. There's like an equivalent exchange. Kind of like reminds me of something in like Full Metal Alchemist or something, right? I didn't finish that anime, but it was pretty good. I'm not really so much into those like shonen style animes. Although I did enjoy Naruto, but I'm not really like I prefer like stuff like Steins Gate or what's it? So no Free Ren, things like that. Yeah, I like Code Geass, Fate Zero, stuff like that. Psycho Pass is a good one, but that's not super rewatchable. I don't really feel like rewatching it, but that was a pretty good one. Cyberpunk Edge Runners again, it's pretty cool, but it's like didn't really feel like rewatching it. Um, but I do feel like I'm growing out of Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero a little bit. Um, it's kind of natural, but I feel like something like So No Free Ren you don't really grow out of as much. Do you know what I mean? I like this game. I like this game because it's kind of a simpler style. Um, reminds me a bit of like Guns and stuff like that, or just older games that I played, like style of games that were popular like 10, 15 years ago. Just simpler games, like something like Terra, it's kind of an older game. It's not like a modern game with all this nonsense like season pass, microtransactions, DLCs, and um, super high like hardware requirements, and I don't know, just kind of clunky, sluggish combat, um, overly polished kind of thing. Woke stuff or just bad story writing. This game doesn't really have much story, so far anyway. It's just games, just fun. I spent a lot of time playing I spent a lot of my life playing the game Guns, and that is very simple kind of engine and graphics like this. The guys that made Guns did actually make an MMO called Raiders. It wasn't that good, to be honest. It wasn't that popular. They didn't really do a good job of designing it. Guns was a kind of like a complete accident that it was really good. It ended up being really popular, but it was kind of an accident. It was like the bugs and like the badness of the game is what allowed people to make like K-Style, which is what actually made the game good. Is K-Style is just like glitches based on exploiting the game mechanics. But like by doing that, it made it like extremely skilled. The way you had to like press a bunch of buttons and stuff to do like special moves that weren't designed in the game. It's like in this game you can sprint, then jump, then slash, then jump again. You can like keep moving and jump while doing your combo. That's kind of like the sort of thing you do in Guns, but it's way more complicated in Guns. But it's like the feeling of that is kind of similar. But yeah, so third eye chakra, I don't know about that. I was trying to activate it. You have to like unblock it or something. The girl said the woman said you had to have a balance between rationality and intuition. You had to have the correct balance. Um, and some other things. It's about like programming or something. It's like limiting subconscious beliefs, limiting. I am interested in that. Like, how can one change one's subconscious beliefs, and how do they affect things? So probably thinking about that like last year quite a lot. Don't really know much about it, to be honest. Um, but some would say if you can change your subconscious beliefs, you can change your experience of reality. Wow, that fucked him up. Um, yeah, so the spirit guides thing, I've heard about it from the Joseph Till guy, and I also heard about it again from this tarot reader. Um, and I thought, well, it's Halloween. The veil is supposed to be thinnest, so maybe it's a good time to try and do that because I'm not really doing much for remote viewing at the moment. Too much problems with my family and EMF and mold problems, health problems. Um, so I was outside. I went out at night a couple of days ago, and I went to the forest, Silverstone Forest, and probably only saw like one or two other people the whole time. It was getting dark, and was trying to activate the focus and activate the third eye chakra. Um, Nothing really happened. Um, didn't see any fairies or anything. I know people who have said they've seen fairies. Like the first guy that I spoke to that said like, "Oh, I know, I'm pretty good at like tarot." Um, he was telling me about fairies, how he's seen these fairies. Um, and he also said like he's seen like his wife saw like something like she saw like an after image of herself behind her or something like that. Can't remember exactly. Um, but yeah, not much really happened. So I started heading back. Went back through Stowe, and then I went round the fields around the side of Stowe Garden, and it was completely dark. Um, they got all these like lights there, and they've got this event for the World War I veterans. They've got all these like kind of like silhouette statue cutouts of like soldiers, like black ones. And they had all these like lights in the woods and stuff. And then they've got these beams of lights going up into the sky. Um, it was weird. Like I think I saw people standing in around this field, but I think most of the people were just these cut out black statues. It was hard to tell like who was a real. I think I saw a couple real people like by the path, but I'm not really sure. Maybe they were just statues as well. Because I thought, oh, there's loads of people here. Then I looked and I realized they were just statues. It was quiet though. It wasn't like a crowd of people making a bunch of noise. It's kind of weird. So I went across the fields just on the way back probably wanted to go a different way. I would never usually go there at night, to be honest. Um, wouldn't usually go like cross country like that in the night unless it's like a really an easy path, like a proper path, but a bridle way. It's easy to get down, but yeah, I sat on this bench, um, and there was no cows for a change. I couldn't see any cows or sheep, and it's just pitch black. And I ate some crisps, and I basically just tried to contact these spirit guide people, um, and I tried to imagine a room. I didn't know how to do it because I hadn't watched any of the videos. I just tried to figure out how to do it by myself, and I just tried to. First, I tried to just communicate with them normally, like try to ask them to talk, like kind of like channeling. Um, Nothing really happened. Sometimes I hear a voice in my head, but I think it's probably just my own mind creating the voice, and it's pretending that it's another person speaking to me, but it's like just a different part of my different layer of my consciousness or something. I'm not schizophrenic yet, but I kind of like know people that have been a little bit. I've definitely met people that were schizophrenic, yeah, especially in prison. But I also spent some time at like a mental health psychologist place. Although I wasn't like an inpatient. I wasn't sectioned or anything. So I'm not really schizophrenic, but yeah, I tried that and it didn't really work. So I tried imagining like a room, like just a simple white room. Tried to add some details, and I said like, um, come into this room that I've created, so I can see what you look like. That didn't really seem to work, so did some other stuff, and then I moved on, and few miles on, quite a way away, quite some distance away, kind of taking an indirect way back to town. I was going up this hill, and it's very nice stars and stuff. A very nice sky. You could see all the stars, but you could also see these kind of clouds that were kind of fairly fast moving, but they were kind of isolated clouds with a sort of structure. And they're kind of low clouds in a way. So it's coming up this, so it's coming up this hill, and the sky looked really interesting. Can't remember exactly what I was thinking or feeling about this sky, but it was definitely something to be appreciated, right? And obviously, I'm listening to music like I usually would. I'm going along, and kind of get towards the top of the hill where it curves to the left, and this is an area that kind of overlooks the surrounding fields. It's a bit of a high ground, and it's a place I know quite well. It's very quiet. Very few cars go there, and saw these two stars off to the right hand side. These two, they look like stars, but I'd never seen them before. like a new formation of stars I'd never seen before. So I um I looked at them and I thought that's odd. There's definitely not a star formation like that with two stars next to each other, and they're quite bright. Like they're brighter than most stars. There's no form. You definitely remember that. Like that is not a normal part of the sky. You'd remember like just two stars in a formation like that. No other bright stars around, and it's kind of fairly close to each other, but not as much as if it was a plane or something. And it wasn't like star because I've seen what they call Starlink before, and that's a chain. That's a chain that goes in like one direction, and they follow each other in a chain, right? Like a train. This was not like that. It was more like looked more like two planes flying at the same altitude, flying towards you. Um, but with a fair separation. But they looked like stars. They didn't look like planes. Um, and so I kept looking at these stars. I kind of stopped, slowed down, and I stopped, and it looked kind of after a while. It like I tried to figure out what they were. Like were they satellites or they just looked like stars to start with. But then after a while, they began moving towards me, and they moved towards me as if it was like two planes or drones. But these were definitely not drones because it was way out in the countryside at night, and they were too far apart. They were quite far apart. But the weird thing was, it kind of looked like there was a plane going kind of cross their direction, cross their path, and then back behind them a bit, sort of a diagonal from my direction towards them, but it looked like the stars. To my eyes, it looked like these stars were below below the below these the below this plane, right? These stars looked like they were in front of the plane, and they sort of I could it seemed like they were moving towards me, but it could have been an illusion created by the clouds, right? The clouds moving. Um, but these stars, as they got closer, they were still not nowhere near being directly above me, but they were coming closer. And at a certain point, they just faded out. They just kind of faded into nothing over a couple of seconds, which I've seen things do before, and I wonder like what the hell was that? Like I've seen some strange things before, but I could not. I usually can't be certain that they aren't just planes. Sometimes planes will have their headlight on and then they'll turn and it looks like but then you'll see the flashing lights. Um, this one just went to nothing, like there was nothing there. And like I said, they kind of seemed like they were low down. They weren't like super high at altitude, so you would definitely see something if there was an object there. There was nothing, and I also didn't hear anything. Um, So I thought like, wow, that was a UFO. Like that was definitely a UFO, right? Um, then I look around, so I keep looking around, and I wonder like, what else? Is there anything else? So kind of like hanging around, looking for, see if there's anything else odd, like, or maybe these things will come back or something else. And I look to my right, and there's a cloud there, and the cloud looks exactly like a witch's face, like an old lady, the stereotypical witch. This cloud looks exactly like it. Um, it's got a sort of jutting out chin. It's got a long pointy nose, and the face looks exactly like a old witch from like the cartoons or something. Imagine like a black silhouette of a witch. And then I look to the left, I look towards my town, complete opposite direction, and there's another shape in the clouds um, over there to my left, and it looks exactly like kind of like an old Native American man, um, or kind of like a bit like a Neanderthal, like a very primitive kind of looking guy. And he's got like a big sort of curving nose, and he's got like lips that look a certain way, kind of like Bigfoot. And he's got like deep set eyes and like a like a sloping forehead. He looks exactly like certain Native American men, like kind of like 50 or 60-year old Native American men. Um, Very strange. I don't usually see shapes in the clouds, like never, almost never. But the last time I saw my cousin, he told me something about like he saw something that looked like a dragon. He saw a cloud that looked just like a dragon. Um, Funny enough, I saw that on YouTube yesterday. Like someone showed a picture of a cloud that looked just like a dragon. So yeah, I thought, wow, I just kind of like saw like a UFO and some cool looking clouds. And there was also a star, like a weird star, like very bright. I think it's just a planet though. I could see it like half an hour later. It's probably still there. It's like very kind of like yellow, very, very bright. Might have been Venus or something, or Jupiter. But yeah, um, I wasn't really sure what to make of that. I just thought I I would have assumed it was a UFO, and then these clouds just happen to look that way. Um, but they definitely looked exactly like these things. It wasn't just like a pattern recognition, because as I say, I usually see like things in clouds very much. It wasn't until like next day, the next morning, when I started like watching videos and thinking about stuff, that I figured out that was actually the that was actually the response from the spirit guides. Um, so it's possible that I have two spirit guides, and one is a witch, like an old lady witch, and the other one is this Native American kind of man. I don't know if he's like a shaman, or if he is just someone who lives in a way that is in balance with nature, like a druid. He's someone that has a deep understanding of nature. Uh, I'm not I'm not sure, but that's the sense that I get from it. So the two stars were probably to get my attention, but also there the two stars represent the two spirits. So obviously you got one on the left, one on the right, and those two stars were kind of at an angle. The direction was pretty much kind of perpendicular to where both of the at a 90-degree angle to both of the clouds with the faces in. So you might see something and assume it's a UFO, but it might not be. I've never really seen a UFO before, like for definite. My brother saw like an orb. My brother saw an orb in Milton Keynes, and he got a video of it, and he sent me the video. I'm pretty sure it was an orb, not a Chinese lantern. It definitely looks like an orb because it was so close that if it was a lantern, you'd be able to kind of tell. There was no kind of structure to it at all. There was no. It was just a uniform kind of strong light, orange color. So I believe him that it was definitely an orb. I don't know why he saw it, whether there was any meaning to that though. Of why he saw that orb. Okay, I think we're done in this cave. The recording's not going to be very good because my computer is so old. It has trouble recording and playing the game at the same time. People say though, people talk about like, oh, that star up there is like this person or something. This person is watching you because they're actually that star up there. That's this person. I think my mum even says stuff like that.